he'll be amazing. He's a star.
Be electric today.
He's the king. He's the best that we've ever had.
The build-up to him coming back was huge. The media circus was huge.
And
there was French flags flying everywhere because the talisman was back. To have him back was like the ship having his captain back. You know, he knew how to point us in the direction, which way to go.
Eric's stage. Eric's the lead actor, and Eric delivers the best lines.
It's the second coming of Eric Cantona.
He strode out there with his collar up and his chest puffed out. And
a tribute to his footballing genius.
We're pleased to announce we've agreed terms with Leeds United for the transfer of Eric Cantona, and he's agreed a new 3.5-year contract.
He arrived at Old Trafford with an exceptional pedigree and a mixed reputation.
he was supposed to be this monster that couldn't be tamed, and wherever he went sort of left a trail of destruction. So we were kind of...
Yes, Eric!
Doing things that the referee, getting involved with teammates and various disciplinary issues wherever he went. He showed no signs of any of those traits. He was always positive when he came, he was always a team player, and he just loved being there.
Yeah, I mean, he was a little bit different from your archetypal footballer, I guess. I mean, he was into pottery and art and a lot of stuff that players, the way they were in that dressing room, probably didn't understand a lot about. But he was a very confident, maybe people thought arrogant kind of character. But as I say, in his off-guard moments when we were all out, he just loved being there. He just was like any other lads, had a bit of a chat, a bit of a laugh, a couple of beers, and didn't want to go home. He embraced us, we embraced him. As soon as we saw him on a football pitch and what he could do, then all was good. Well, he had unbelievable balance for somebody 6'2", 6'3".
There's a break on now with Cantona.
He had wonderful technique. He was terrific in the air.
Cantona!
He was strong. He was quick, and of course he had that flair which made him that exceptional player.
Imagining that, let alone executing it.
He could do something out of the ordinary with a piece of skill.
Elkin's header only goes to Cantona! A glorious goal! What can you do about that?
I'm in the privileged position of being involved in one of the Premier League's greatest goal-scoring moments. Never happened, you know, so I think it was probably the most perfect 12-inch passes you'll ever seen.
I actually think the one he scored against Sheffield United in the FA Cup, a similar type of chip, was an even better goal.
Cantona is free, Giggs has seen him, he's found him. Cantona looks for the chip! Oh, exquisitely done!
He hit this chip into this gale force wind, and it went in off the underside of the bar. And I just thought, that's absolute genius.
Well, it's just teed up for Cantona.
Sometimes he'd maybe have quiet matches, but he'd do something in a game that would either win you the game or would just leave you going, wow. And that was the player that Eric was.
They just arrived on the scene at Old Trafford, United's new generation. A raft of talented academy graduates, eager to impress. They were impressed by the Frenchman and in awe of him.
He's a really quiet man, humble, quiet man, but phenomenal aura about him.
I felt nervous in front of him. He walked towards you and he was just big. I mean, people might realise he was big, but he was big that way, tall, an actor quicker than people would ever imagine as well. It was more about his actions, maybe sometimes a stare. If you didn't play the pass to the right side of the defender.
Most top teams have a leader like that they can turn to with, if you like, the lieutenants being underneath them. But Eric was certainly the leader of that team, the way he drove us and the way he taught us without actually talking to us, if that makes sense. He taught us just by watching what he does.
I've only played with a few players, really, that have that enormous presence that just make you feel like you're in the presence of something more than a football player, and he was one of them.
In CANTONA'S first season, United were champions for the first time in a generation. In his second, they won the double.
And we must be the king in Europe. We did the double, like Liverpool in the 80s. Liverpool was the king in Europe. I hope so. Touch wood.
Everywhere he'd been, he'd won something, and he liked winning. But he liked winning in a certain way. He liked to win with panache and style.
He was the final piece of the jigsaw for the team. He gave us that imagination. We had a really strong team, full of characters, full of grit, strong players, but maybe lacked a little bit of imagination. And Eric was the, orchestrated all that, I guess.
In Alex Ferguson, he had a manager who knew how to manage him.
I just think he found a really comfortable place for himself, a manager who understood him, or tried to understand him as best as he could.
We were at a function one night, and we had just won the league.
We all turned up in our blazers with the old, I call it the Busby Babes crest, but it's the old Manchester crest.
Of course, Eric turns up with flip-flops, raggy jeans, and what you could only describe as Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat coat.
If it had been any other player, may have been sent home, he might have been certainly clipped round the ear if it was a younger one.
Like a mug, I went up to Sir Alex and said, "Boss, listen, okay, Eric can't turn up like that." He says, "Tell the rest of them over there, if they can all play like him, they can all come as Joseph next year."
Yet from time to time, he showed a side to his nature that no manager could control.
There was times, and when he lost his temper, as we all know, then there was that red flash. And with all the great players I've played with, somehow it's ingrained in there that they've got this little switch.
For me, the short fuse is what people like to focus on. I think that's the sort of myth. And he did have his moments. He wasn't taking any messing around, Eric Cantona, but that wasn't for me his overriding personality and character.
Everybody said about being a maverick, and what he's saying about the individual, all the other stuff, but he couldn't have been more impeccable in how he did things, apart from one game.
It was halfway through the season. United, locked in a title race with Blackburn Rovers, were playing at Crystal Palace. A running battle between Cantona and several Palace players would lead to one altercation too many. In the second half, he kicked out at defender Richard Shaw. The red card was predictable. What happened next would be anything but.
I don't think any of us seen that coming. I don't think any of us envisaged that he was going to jump into the crowd.
He'd just been sent off. The guy came down the terrace screaming and shouting, and I think something just snapped in him.
Eric, in his own way, sort of nudged me after the game and sort of said, "I think I'm in a bit of trouble." I said, "It's a bit of trouble."
Private 3, stay where you are. Private 2 or Private 1, can you keep your men there, please? Thank you.
Because of an incident that's happened here this evening, we've received 2 allegations of assault.
We've all done daft things, impetuous things that tipped us right over the edge. Unfortunately for Eric, his is very much the public domain.
He's on, yeah, he's on.
The Football Association has this evening charged Eric Cantona with misconduct that has brought the game into disrepute.
Manchester United has today suspended Eric Cantona from all first-team matches for the remainder of the 1994-95 season.
The reaction was one of shock.
What happened last night was a stain on our game.
And condemnation.
The punishment never for me is kick him out of football, kick him out of the club. It's wrong. It's not right, obviously, but it's a human being and we want passionate sports people. And the guy's giving him a load and he's gone and given him one back.
Convicted of assault, he faced a fortnight in prison. When his sentence on appeal was reduced to community service, he spoke to the press.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
I remember saying to him afterwards, Eric, where'd you get that from? In his own way, he thought, I don't know, it was good, eh? No, he could say something like that.
But football would punish him severely.
What do you think is going to happen?
The members of the Commission have decided that Eric Cantona should be suspended forthwith from all football activities up to and including the 30th of September 1995.
He's received a punishment no one else will ever get in British football. No one will ever get that kind of punishment.
United, without Cantona, would be the nearly men that season.
And it's goal! Well, was that the big chance for Manchester United to wrap up the title?
With a draw at West Ham on the final day, they lost their title race with Blackburn. A week later, they lost to Everton in the FA Cup final.
I think the loss of Eric, especially when we needed to go and beat somebody like West Ham to win the league, I think if he had been around, it might have been a different story.
Cantona, frustrated by the terms of his ban, handed in a transfer request that summer and returned to France. United feared they'd lost him altogether.
I want to make an apology. I made some terrible mistakes. Last year, in a certain 5-0 victory, I only scored 1 goal. Against Newcastle, I put a shot 3 inches wide of the post, and at Wembley I failed to complete an hat-trick. I realized this behavior was unacceptable, and I promise not to make such mistakes again.
That he has to live with the fact who he is. He's got to show maturity and a responsibility that's going to prove that.
Times were changing at Old Trafford. Ince, Hughes and Kanchelskis had been sold. It was a new look lineup with young, homegrown talent. They relished the prospect of the Frenchman's return.
There was a huge buzz having him back. Training with us and being with us, and his presence in the squad was enormous. To have him back was like, the only way I could describe it really is like a ship having his captain back. You know, he knew how to point us in the direction, which way to go.
For players and fans alike, the wait was over. His comeback was against Liverpool, United's fiercest rivals.
The atmosphere in the stadium that day was unbelievable. The return of the King. It gave everybody a huge lift.
We came out to Old Trafford and there was French flags flying everywhere because the talisman was back.
He strode out there with his collar up and his chest puffed out, and it was like, yeah, I'm back where I belong there. You know, don't panic, I'm here to win another title.
Here's Cantona.
Being away, that was the ironic thing. It was quite incredible. That somebody had been away for so long and not allowed to play could come back and have the impact that he did straight away. Lifted everybody.
2 goals from Robbie Fowler turned the game in Liverpool's favour.
Rush in the centre, Fowler didn't need him.
But with 20 minutes to go, Cantona created an opening for Ryan Giggs.
But here's Cantona, finding acceleration. He's got Giggs with him. Penalty.
It would be down to the Frenchman, to rescue his team.
Eric's stage, Eric's the lead actor, and Eric delivers the best lines.
So Cantona, 70 minutes into his comeback.
What way to announce yourself back, you know, scoring the equaliser against your arch rivals.
Yeah, I think he's done well. It's his first game. Obviously, he's tired at the end of it, but I think he'll be well pleased with his performance.
From that moment on, we never looked back. With Eric back in the team, we now looked like that really, really top team, which, you know, was back together again.
What Eric did in that season, in that last 3 or 4 months, he didn't just come back from the ban, he actually went on and delivered probably his best ever performances for United.
At Newcastle United, another Frenchman, David Ginola, was enjoying centre stage that season.
Ginola, Grizzly screaming for it back. Ginola has other ideas. Those kind of ideas!
Kevin Keegan's side were flying high at the top of the table.
Newcastle played by far the better football. By far the better football. But we always felt that if we were in the running after Christmas, we would finish stronger.
When United faced West Ham, almost a year to the day after the Selhurst Park incident, they were 12 points behind the leaders. Cantona's early goal would prove to be decisive.
This is Giggs. Andy Cole. Back to Giggs, they pulled away from him, it's in there, low shot goes for it, and Cantona has turned it in!
We had a lot of leaders in that team, but he was a talisman, he was the one that could turn the key, he was the one that could break down defences, he was the one that scored the important goals.
Now what's he going to do? There is your answer!
The number of times we won 1-0 and Eric scored the winner was ridiculous. At the big times, big occasions, he was just simply unique.
Giggs, it's Cantona! Amazing! Absolutely amazing!
He's on a roll at the moment.
Yeah, he's started to play very well, and there's a goal look about him.
He scored 6 in as many Premier League games, 4 of them match winners. The Frenchman revitalised United's title challenge almost single-handedly.
There in that moment, you just think you're 0-0. You need someone to produce something special, and it always seemed to be him.
He was the one that created, or indeed finished, match-winning situations. And maybe because of the things that had happened to him that spurred him on to even greater heights.
With 2 months of the season to go, United travelled to St James's Park for a top-of-the-table clash. A pivotal game in the title race.
By the end of the evening, Newcastle could have an emphatic 7-point margin or a worrying 1-point margin at the head of the Premiership.
We went to St James's Park. Michael was just an incredible performance.
Les Ferdinand! Good save again by Schmeichel!
Cantona scores and we basically stole the 3 points.
Probably you could point towards us winning the league. You just know that there's that bit between the teeth, at that moment that really is a turning point's gone your way.
The final whistle has gone and Alex Ferguson's team have claimed the 3 points. Eric Cantona's goal may well prove crucial when the history of the 1995-96 season is written.
I think that clawed the gap back to within touching distance and gave us the belief, and of course knocked a bit of the stuffing out of Newcastle. I think if Newcastle had beat us that day, then it might have been a different ballgame.
Cantona's final goal of the Premier League season came in United's final home game.
Still Cantona! 5-0. The perfect way to finish a perfect afternoon for Manchester United.
He'd scored 14 in 30 Premier League games since his comeback from his ban. As they saluted their fans, United sensed that they were close to winning the title. Angered by Alex Ferguson's mind games.
When you can see the opposition not holding the nerve, getting emotional, getting wound up, getting angry, that's when you know that you're in a position where you're a position of strength and you gain strength from that.
The final whistle. It's Manchester United's championship.
With a 3-0 win at Middlesbrough, United reclaimed the title, their third in 4 years.
A win here and an emphatic one that has nailed Newcastle into second place.
For one man, the moment marked a more personal triumph.
Amidst the glory, the major story of a Frenchman who's learnt to master himself without losing his mastery of a football.
That season when he came back from the ban, you would never say one player wins a league, but that's probably as close as it gets.
The Premier club in the Premier League, that is Manchester United.
And of course we went on to win the FA Cup where he scores the winner with a minute to go. What a great way to do it.
And Eric Cantona's comeback is complete.
Manchester United has always been associated with superstars as far as I'm concerned, and the word great. And when you look back after 20 years, we had one of the greatest.
Well, Eric, you've given fans up and down the country a lot of pleasure this season. Thanks very much indeed. Enjoy your summer holidays.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you next season. Maybe we try to do better next season. Always like that. Manchester United.
Eric, you're a star. Thank you very much indeed.
Enjoy Sky Sports Live. On all screens, on the go, and the best bits on demand.